Welcome back. We have been busy this week doing all-nighters, making wigs and outfits, but the time has come to connect this body to this head and give Dr. Cecil the privilege of being one man. Join me as we go on this journey to connect these two pieces together and make Dr. Cecil a real boy. Okay, quick disclaimer before we get started. I use a mixture of very professional and incredibly unprofessional methods when I make my puppets. I'm just doing how I do things and it's not always correct. So with that, I'm going to put his head to the side for now just to keep it safe. And I'm going to get started on the body. And there's a couple of things we've got to do to the body to make it ready. I'd also like to add that if you just wanted to, if you'll pardon me, go up through his nether regions and operate him that way, you're more than welcome to. I just think it's a bit tight, and also I don't really like the way that the body falls. If I'm going to do it like this, it kind of gives it a straightness to it. But if I'm to go through his back, where I've made a little bit of a hole here, you kind of get a bit more of a curvature to his spine, and I think that it just looks a bit better when you operate. So it's totally up to you. You can use the hole that's already available, but I never have. I always make a hole around the back. I'm just going to, first of all, begin by removing, oh, his shorts want to come off, but I'm going to remove his shirt so that we can see our hole a little bit better. His shirt is removed and we can have a look at the body at the moment. Now, what I did before I started making this series is make a little hole in his back, and that is literally just the size of my hand so that I can comfortably fit my hand through. When you make a hole in the back of his body, make sure that your hand can fit comfortably and use whatever thing around that you have. I like to use a mug because I know that my hand is definitely going to fit through it. So all I did for this was literally draw the mug shape onto the back of his back and cut that out that way, but I've left a little flap open, and that's so we can connect his neck in the future. And how we're going to do that is with the sock that we used earlier in the week for Betsy's wig. We've got this lovely bit of tubing here, and if I cut it at the ankle line, we've kind of got a place for our arm to go. So I'm going to fit this to this, but before I do that, it's important to get the neck refined. Now you'll see here, he doesn't really have a neckline and it sort of goes straight over. So what I'm going to do here is I'm literally, under here we've got the foam, I'm going to cut the foam into like a U shape here, and I'm also going to do one at the back, not as long, I'm going to keep it a little bit shorter, and then I'm going to fold the material into it so that he's got more of a pronounced neckline, and it will also be easier for our hand to get through to be able to operate the man. So that's what I'm going to do first. So for this, I'm literally just going to use some scissors and some fabric glue. I'm not going to sew it in after I've done it because there's really not much point, but all I'm going to do here is just snip a little bit away, kind of just going to measure roughly where I think the middle is, and I'm just literally going to cut a half circle into my foam. I want the bit at the front to be a bit deeper than the bit at the back. We've got a lovely big half circle cut out here. I'm just going to do the same on the back, but not as pronounced. So this is the back, and I've cut a very loose half circle in it, and then on the front I've cut a half circle, but I've cut a much more pronounced half circle. And all I'm going to do now is get my fabric that's around it and just do a little snip down the center, and then hopefully we can fold our fabric into it like this and secure it in place so that he's got a lovely little neckline, and then it will sit like this. You see? So I'm literally just getting my fabric glue here. It's a bit difficult to see, but in the interior of the actual foam itself, spread that glue around the edges of the foam, and then I'm also just going to put some glue on the actual fabric itself, and then I'm just going to fold it over so that it's in place, and I'm going to get a pin to secure it because I don't have the luxury of using big bad boy glues because I don't have very good ventilation. So my system is just to get fabric glue and then pin it in place so that it's got time to set. See how that's lovely and curved there now? You can do this long before this step. Because I'm doing the neck, I will do the neck, if that makes sense, but you're more than welcome to do this as you begin his structuring. All right, and then you can see the difference already, and we've given him a lovely little neckline here, and I'm going to do the same that I've just done for the back. So I'm just putting that glue all over that foam just to start getting it tacky, and then I'm also going to put the glue on the fabric itself, press it down in place and get a pin. Okay, so I pin that in place, and Sorry. I pin that in place, and I'm going to do the same to the other side as well. Douse that fabric in that glue there. Make sure it's nice and taut as you bring it round. Press it down with your fingers and pin it in place. So immediately we've got a neckline here, and I'm going to let that dry, and we're going to move on to the actual neck. I'm going to attach this sock part to the neckline, because when we put the neck through, you want a little bit of length here for the actual puppet. So when you put your hand in, your hand will become the neck. So it's important that we give your hand a little bit of space to actually stretch out, which is why I put a sock on it, just to give it a little bit of extra length, so that when I connect it to this hole here, we haven't really sacrificed any of the pattern length, if that makes any sense. Where I've got this ankle line, I'm literally just going to chop it just like that, so it's kind of one straight tube, and then I'm going to connect this part, because this part is nicely seamed together, so I'm going to have that on the outside, and I'm going to put this part that I've just cut and literally connect it all the way around by sewing it. And this part doesn't have to be neat at all, because this bit won't be seen outside of the cavity, so you can connect it as unneatly as you want. So I'm going to begin by doing that, and I'm going to try and protect his head as much as I can. And I'm just going to start by roughly pinning it in place so that it doesn't move. I'm just going to stretch the sock as I do so, because as you'll see, the sock is a bit smaller than the neck hole, but the sock is stretchy, so we need to utilize that. I am going to have to buy new pins, because look at that. Can you zoom in on that? That is from years of neglect and abuse. I literally just shove them through glue whenever the moment strikes, and as a consequence, they don't really act like pins anymore. All right, so I've been all the way around, and I have secured the sock onto the neck, and now I'm going to sew it in place. And like I say, it does not have to be neat in the slightest. This is not going to be seen by the public. This is just for your privacy. So I'm just going to pick any random colour. What's that? Yeah, we'll go with that. I mean, it's kind of similar to the sock, but that doesn't really matter. And I'm literally just going to start by sewing it around the edges, so I'll catch up with you when I've done that. I've finished sewing up the neck cavity. It's not very neat at all, as you can see, because as I've said, it's not going to be seen by the general public. So I'm just going to put this off to the side for now, and I'm now going to look at the shirt. When I make my puppets and I have a hole in their back, I also have a hole in the back of their shirt. For example, his shirt is going to be tucked into his trousers, so it's best that we just have a hole straight through the back that we can access easily. So I'm gonna now get his shirt here, measure it up on his body, and cut a hole in the back that we can then connect to the hole in his actual back. And the way I'm gonna do that is I've got this mug, and it can fit my hand through. So whatever you're using for your circle shape, make sure that your hand can fit in it, because that is the main goal. So I'm just gonna put his shirt back on and measure up where I need that hole to go. And now I've got the shirt on him, I basically want to align the hole that I'm gonna make in the shirt with the hole that I've made in his back already. So to do that, I'm literally going to feel where the hole is, and I'm going to mark it with a pen, the center of it, and then maybe just a few bits of outskirts as well, so that I kind of get a rough parameter of where the hole is. And then we're going to take the shirt back off. I'm going to flip this inside out. Now this is going to be a bit bigger than the hole that I've drawn, because I definitely want to make sure that I can fit my hand through it, and we can fold it into our sewing, so it doesn't matter if it's a bit too big. But what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to use a Sharpie, because that will stain my mug and also stain the fabric. So what I'm just going to do is go around loosely with a biro pen. I'm going to measure up my circle that I want as much as I can with the dots that I've drawn, and I'm literally just going to go around the edge of my mug just like that. If you remember how we cut the crevices for the eyes and the nose on Betsy, I'm just going to do a sort of cross shape here. I'm not going to do a circle cutout, because then you'll get a seam line all the way around the circle, and it might start to fray and get a bit weird. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to cut across into it, so that we've got fabric flaps that we can then peel back and curl over the edge of our circle that we sew, and you won't get any seam lines or fabric frays. So I'm just going to start by pinching it together, so I've got a little bit of leeway, and then cutting it like this, going up to the line that I've drawn, and then I'm just going to do some diagonal lines as well, so that we've got more of a curvature and we can bend it to our will. So I've got something that looks like this, and that's what we're going to use to connect it all together. Now we're going to put it back on, so we can see that the hole we've made corresponds to the hole that I've now made in the shirt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed this head part through. I'm going to be as delicate as possible, because the neck is still drying, and I'm going to bring this socky bit through that neck hole, and I'm going to have my hand here to catch it, and I'm just going to bring it through, making sure his head is on the right way. That's crucial. Just don't want to hurt his mustache. The poor man has been through so much and his mustache is suffering because of it. Now I've got this through, it's time for me to measure how long I want his neck to be. How much room do I actually want to give Cecil's neck when the time comes, because I need to know that in order to stitch this in place properly. I don't want it to be too tall because then it kind of looks weird. When you haven't got a hand in it and there is no neck structure, you kind of don't want it flopping about. How do we feel about that? What are we thinking? I think this is a really good height for the neck to be at. I think it's great for operations, but you don't get a long sort of saggy situation going on. I think this is a good length, potentially maybe a bit less. Yeah, that's a good length to have him sit at, so that when it's all said and done, he's going to be able to be operated at this distance. And I will fix his trousers because he is becoming exposed again. I just want to protect his mustache as much as possible, because this is going to be, I mean, this is a compromising position for anyone. It's a bit fiddly, but essentially I'm folding in all of this fabric from the shirt, and then I'm going to on top roll up my sock, much like if you were just putting on your sock, like this, and then connect that rolled edge to the foam that I've cut out and also to the shirt, so that you've got a lovely little opening here that you can just zoom through at any time. I'm going to pin the shirt and the sock into the foam because I'm going to be sewing it into his foam structure. This bit can be extremely fiddly, so just take your time, because the important thing is that we get it in the right place as much as possible with the right width that we've measured for the neck. You can see how I've kind of made this little suggestive look and shape here, and through that is how we're going to operate him when all is said and done. And I'm now going to start by sewing together through the foam. So it's important you go through the foam, the shirt and the sock, so that it's connected together and it's secure as possible, because you will be doing a lot of pushing and shoving when you put your hand in, so it's important that it stays rigid and secure. So you can see here the foam structure and then the sock itself, and all I've done is literally curl in the shirt behind that, and I'm going to connect these two bits together, but I'm going to go through the foam so that it stays safe and secure. So I'm going to go all the way around the edge, and then I shall rejoin you. Okay, so I've just finished finally going around the crevice area, and you can see he's now got a gaping hole in his back, and that's where I'm going to fit my hand through. It can stretch as much as it can because it's a sock, it's really loose. You can just bring your hand up in there and it gives it a lovely little rigid thing to sit in, so you're not moving around constantly. So I'm just going to bring now his trousers, bless his heart, back up so he's not exposed, and tuck in that shirt that we've sewn at the back. And this is literally it. You can see how his neck is now a really nice length, and it seams in perfectly with that little archway that we've made into his chest. Look at him go. He's looking amazing. He's got one more session left. We have one more session left with Dr. Cecil, and that is to finish off his outfit and make him look refined. But I think he's looking amazing. We've come so far with him. It's absolutely unbelievable. My hand feels really secure in there, really nice, but it's also got a lot of room actually when you go through the sock and up into the neck area. If you enjoyed what you saw here today and you found it relaxing, please do subscribe and ring that bell so that you can be told when we upload our next version of this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.